is one of its first teams of its kind in the state of Utah. These specialized canine units can change the way law enforcement investigate digital crimes and help adult probation and parole agents keep the community safe. Today on Conversations with Corrections, the Utah Department of Corrections receives its first electronics detection canine detectives. I'm Richard Pyatt, and joining me today on Conversations with Corrections are Chief of AP&P, Tim Kincaid, Assistant Chief Josh Draper, and our new AP&P agent and handler of canine Glitch, Josh Paxman, the department's new electronic dog handler. Thank you all for joining us today. Let me start by talking about the need for an electronic sniffing dog. That seems very specific. Tim, why did we get an electronic sniffing dog? Actually, we have two electronic sniffing dogs. Glitch and
Cypher.
Glitch and Cypher.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the biggest reason is we're always trying to get more tools in the toolbox, so to speak. But we collaborated with Defenders of Children. It's a child abuse awareness and prevention organization that basically deals with human trafficking and child pornography. So with that collaboration, we were able to get the two dogs with the two handlers.
So as a law enforcement tool, they're seeking out detectives, right, Assistant Chief Draper? So we've got detective. Why do we need that?
Seeking out detectives or seeking out
electronics.
Electronics, yeah. So they're seeking out electronics primarily because when it comes to supervising certain type of probationers and parolees, there are stipulations that they have where they can't have electronic devices that can access the internet. And another piece to that is that a lot of times they'll hide electronics if they can't have those devices, which is the primary purpose for getting these dogs, because they can seek those out, and wherever they're at in the room, they can find them.
So in the big picture, there's been an increase in sex offenses because technology has taken off. So this requirement not to have electronics, Chief, is this something relatively new in law enforcement and as part of a condition of parole? Is that something that Josh or Tim, is that something relatively new that's come along as a new requirement?
No, it's a fairly old requirement. It's been around for quite a few years as far as those conditions go. But it is something that we're seeing an increase in, especially when there's artificial intelligence coming up. There's a lot more technology that people are able to commit crimes using technology. So I think that we're going to see a huge increase in judges and the Board of Pardons ordering these types of conditions. So I think the need for these canines are going to be even greater 5 years down the road.
Okay.
Just so with the increased technology and how it's come along, and it's just become more of an issue.
Okay. All right, so it's time to meet Glitch. Glitch is newly arrived to the Department of Corrections. Josh Paxman, you're her handler. Tell us about her.
So I picked up Glitch. I actually met her June 1st in Indiana. So after Defenders of Children teamed up with us, they scheduled out a 2-week training course out in Indiana with Jordan Detection. We drove out there, met her June 1st, and we started training that first day. The dogs were already imprinted with the odor, and so they already knew the target odor. And so the 2 weeks was pretty much training the handlers on how to read the dogs, some of the commands, and just interacting with the dogs, letting them get to know us and us getting to know some of their tells, so we actually can recognize when they're starting to find that target odor.
Okay, so Defenders of Children trains these dogs for people nationwide, and we had 2 of them specially trained for us.
So Defenders for Children actually purchased the dogs and donated to us.
Okay.
It's actually Jordan Detection who is the actual kennel that is training up the dogs. They are imprinting the odor into them. And after they're imprinted, that's when we show up and they start teaching us how to run them, some of the specifics on actually detecting the electronic odors versus your narcotics and some of the other detection.
Okay. So tell us a little bit more about the training. Is it extensive? Is there a lot more to it, or is it similar to the kind of training that a drug sniffing dog would go through?
It's very similar to that, just any kind of detection discipline. There's a few nuances that are a little different with the electronics. I mean, obviously, everybody has electronics. I mean, I don't know how many cell phones are in this room right now. There's probably over 6 or 7 phones in this. So the biggest difference between these dogs sniffing electronics versus narcotics is they're around it all day. They're constantly smelling it. Everybody they interact with have it on them. So some of the hardest parts with these dogs is actually letting them know, like, hey, right now, this is work mode now. I want you to get busy, start working, and actually find these electronics and indicate on them. So we really start with the pre-search ritual to really ingrain in the dog, like, hey, right now, this is work time. Now you're going to get paid for finding this stuff, and actually get them to start searching. Versus a narcotics dog, when they don't ever run into it. And so the second they do start smelling it, you could walk into a room like this, and I mean, if there's just a little bit of narcotics in this room, that dog's going to kind of pick up, and all of a sudden, oh, I know it's work mode. Right now, I'm going to work.
But for electronics, a lot of people don't know that electronics emit an odor. Do any of you know the answer to that? Like, what kind of an odor would the dog be detecting? Is it sort of like the smell of the electronics, like just sort of heating up and emitting some kind of gases or something like that? Is that what it is?
So it's actually a chemical. They call it TPPO. Is the acronym for it. And what it is, it's a chemical they spray on all the electrical components, mostly the solder, to keep them from heating up and catching on fire. And so any digital media that has storage on it is actually going to have that chemical on it. And so that's what they're trained to search.
Okay. All right. So Assistant Chief Draper, what are some of the kinds of cases that these could be used for? We talked about the sex offenders.
Yep.
How would they be used for that? And then what other kinds of cases are there?
Yeah. So primarily, I think the sex offense cases will be a high focus, obviously, because it's something where we're encouraging these agents to go out all the time with our agents that supervise sex offense cases, and just go do field visits with them, to where just the everyday visit may turn up devices that we don't know are even out there. And Josh can talk about that in a little bit. But I think the other things that it'll really hit, it will be those types of offenses where we may have like protective orders or domestic violence type cases where there might be some stalking or things like that have happened that we need to ensure that they're not contacting their victims. In a lot of those cases, we've noticed that they like to hide what they're not supposed to have. And so I think there's a lot of areas other than just sex offenses that we can use it.
Okay. Chief, you've been in law enforcement for a number of years. We've had just law enforcement officers going out and patrolling and dealing with people one-on-one. Then we have electronics that are being used as tools. Now we've got electronics and we've got dogs that are being used as tools. How much have things changed since you first started? And now we're kind of going back and we're using animals and in conjunction with electronics to help us do our jobs, to help keep the community safe. How much what has the change been like to observe?
I think the biggest change is just electronics in itself. When I first started, we didn't have cell phones or the internet. So you look at those advancements and how it's creating the criminal element, I guess, and which helps them, and just it's easier, and there's a lot more stuff you can get on your device and become more secretive and things like that. So I think the biggest thing is just electronics in general.
Is this a pretty significant step, would you say, for the Department of Corrections to have electronics sniffing dogs? Because there aren't that many of them in the state of Utah right now.
Yeah, it's huge. I think the biggest thing is obviously for what we're able to use it for, but also the other thing that's big is to the assistance for the outside law enforcement. And we do have agents that are on the Internet Children's Crime Task Forces, and So I think it's really going to help in that area too for outside law enforcement when they run across these types of cases.
And maybe other departments could ask us to show up and help them, assist them with their own investigations or
Absolutely.
something like that.
Yes.
Assistant Chief Draper, do you see more opportunities to maybe expand our scope and maybe even get more of these dogs for use in our facilities at USCF and CUCF?
Yeah, absolutely. I think initially when we were working with Defenders of Children, we wanted to primarily get them out into the community. But absolutely, I think there will be a real need in our halfway houses or in our community correctional centers, our prisons, all of that. I think down the road, working with the local jails, with just collaborating with those agencies, I think there's going to be a significant increase in these types of offenses, and I think the dogs are going to do nothing but help stop that.
Okay, so Josh Paxman, take us through an average day. Like when you come into work, you take the dog and put him in your vehicle, and then you go visit somebody. You don't bring the dog in right away. How does that usually go? Like, how do you notify the person and let them know that the dog's about to go in? Kind of share with us like what your mode of operation is.
Okay, so typically we plan out a day with some of the guys on the sex offender caseload, and we pick 5 or 6 houses. We go to those houses. We do a quick walkthrough. We go in. We let them know we have a dog. We're going to come search the house. Typically, we talk to them, find out if there's any hazards, anything we need to know about in the house. In addition to that, typically go do a walk through the house, just making sure there's no other dogs, hazardous materials, any kind of food, stuff like that that's going to distract the dogs. After that's cleared and deemed safe, I'll come back in and get the dog. We leave the case agent with the offender, and then I'll go grab the dog and we'll start the house. Depending on the house, whether they're just going to search a room, whether they're going to search a whole house, we'll go through and just give Glitch the room. We let her start walking around. Typically I'll give her search command and just let her walk around the entire place, kind of letting her get a feel for it. And then I'll typically bring her back and actually reset her again and do that starting ritual to let her know, okay, this is actually for pay. You can actually get some food off of this, and you get rewarded when you find the devices. So then we'll actually do a reset, let her start again, and that's when we start getting a lot more detailed, and I start directing her where to put her nose and really start working the room from there.
And then when she hits on a piece of electronics, does she bark or does she roll over, or what does she do?
So she's a passive indication dog, so she'll either sit or lay down. Typically from that point on, I ask her to pinpoint it for me, so I'll actually say, okay, show me. And then she'll actually put her nose as close as possible to the actual source of that odor.
What's the reaction of the parolee when you come in and then you bring the dog in to let them know that you've got you're kind of amping up the search a little bit? This isn't just taking their word for it. You're really looking for a potential violation.
And that's kind of the funny thing with dogs. Most people love dogs, and they really don't get offended by it. So far, I haven't had anybody complain. Everybody's actually kind of happy to see the dog, and they want to pet him. I mean, obviously, I don't let them pet him, but everybody's really, really good about letting canines come in, and I really haven't had any pushback yet on amping up that search yet. So.
Okay. So Josh and Tim, let me put this to you. One of the pillars of the department is helping to keep communities safe. How would you say that, having these dogs helps us meet that goal?
I think the biggest thing is combating the child abuse, human trafficking, and the pornography side of things. The other real positive thing is just the educational outreach that they're required to do, and then the public relations.
Yeah, I think Chief Kincaid covered it all, but I just think that overall, if we can prevent additional crimes occurring by finding devices before they become an issue, rather than reacting after the fact. I mean, up to this point, we've had to react after we get information, and this is really the first preventative piece that we've ever gotten to experience out into the field.
Yeah. Officer Paxman, have either you or your partner had any hits or any violations based on the dogs yet?
So I have deployed Glitch 9 separate times. We found a total of 26 devices so far.
Okay. Is that constitutes a violation for that particular
So
parolee?
No, because it's not illegal or it's not against the rules to have cell phones or computers, unless that's a special stipulation on their probation. So once we find them, we search through them, make sure there's no illicit material, images on it, and so far nobody's had anything illegal on their phones.
When the dogs are on duty and working, and you go into a parolee's residence, obviously that's not a dog that can be played with or toyed with. But when you're out in the community and they're meeting people, that's a different story.
Yes. She is trained as a service animal. She likes to get pets. Any police canine, make sure you ask the officer, hey, can I pet your dog? Make sure it's okay. But she is here for a service animal. She loves pets. She loves people. So anytime you see us out working, just wait until we're done working and then come up to us and ask if you can interact with the dog. She loves it. I love it. And I mean, that's half her pay right there is just interacting with people and getting those relationships going. So
yeah, she's very cute, very pettable.
Yep.
All right. Good. Well, I think that pretty much covers it, unless any of you have anything that you'd like to add by way of closing.
No, thank you for having us.
Okay,
Yeah,
you're welcome. Thanks for coming and joining us on Conversations with Corrections. And thank you for joining us today as well, or tonight, whatever time it is that you're watching. We're employing canine electronic sniffing dogs to help us do our job in our mission of working together, transforming lives, and protecting communities. See you next time.
This has been Conversations with Corrections from the Utah Department of Corrections. These podcasts are available on the UDC YouTube page or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. Suggestions for a future topic can be sent to udccommunications@utah.gov. Thank you for joining us.